The gnawing wasn't just hunger. It was alive, lurking in the cold shadows that clung to the peeling walls of his apartment. A brittle winter evening tapered into dusk, the city's gasping lights straining through grime-streaked glass into Jorge Shea's shrinking universe. A cramped, rotting cage suspended high above a restless, indifferent world. The building loomed like a forgotten mausoleum, its cracked bones moaning softly into the bruised twilight sky, bearing silent witness to lives frayed and tethered by fragile threads. Jorge sank into the threadbare chair, the coarse fibers biting at his skin with whispered reminders of decay and neglect. His face, ghostly pale and carved in exhaustion, was half swallowed by the choking shadow pooling in the corner. Deep hollows etched by nights without rest, without reprieve. Beyond the window, the city's murmur faltered into a muted omni-droning, a numbing echo that drifted like smoke through the stale air. A convulsion clenched his belly, a relentless ache far more ruthless than famine. A living void, cold and coiling beneath his ribs, murmuring with an ancient tongue of despair and gnashing emptiness. It spoke without words, sinking claws into the marrow of his mind, twisting thoughts into nightmarish whispers he could neither decipher nor silence. "Just hold on," he breathed, voice cracked and frayed like the walls around him, a fragile plea to a hope slipping like sand through cracks unseen. "I can still." His trembling fingers brushed the icy glass, its brittle chill seeping through his skin, a biting caress that mingled with the sour tang of mildew and damp plaster hanging like a shroud in the room. His breath fogged the pain, ephemeral and faint, a fragile breath tethering his waning spirit to the outside world, where lights pulsed indifferent, flickering like dying fireflies. The overhead lamp sputtered, convulsing in fitful spasms that cast leaping specters upon the peeling wallpaper, ghosts summoned from the ragged edges of Jorge's unraveling mind. His eyes darted, seized by a flicker. A gaunt, faceless silhouette lurking beyond the threshold, its presence a frozen blade colder than the winter's chill, sliding effortlessly beneath his skin, tracing icy veins through his consciousness. Heart thudding, breath shallow, the figure dissolved, melting back into silence and the gnawing void inside. "This isn't real," he whispered, fragile as cracked glass, fighting the suffocating weight of the room's oppressive stillness, a shroud weaving decay and despair into a suffocating tapestry. Time dripped with agonizing slowness, each second a knife point sinking deeper into his fragile bones. The chill burrowed lower, entwining with the hollow ache that gnawed relentlessly within. Then, a sound, faint scratching, timid at first, as if the walls themselves exhaled tiny, desperate breaths. Not the innocuous creaks of settling bricks, but a deliberate, urgent summons, raking nails against his sanity. "Who's there?" His voice cracked, a desperate rasp swallowed in suffocation. Only the scratching replied, now urgent, scratching, tearing at invisible seams in the fabric of his crumbling reality. Then a hiss slid from the shadows, a breath exhaled by something ancient and hollow, sighing despair directly into the marrow of the stale room. Cold sweat crowned his brow, sweat that stung his dry lips with salt and dank fear as dread sank its claws deeper. Fingers clenched, grasping for the last splinters of tethered sanity. The hunger shape shifted, darkening, twisting, a spectral parasite feasting mercilessly on the hollowed cavities swallowing his soul. His legs protested, leaden weights against trembling nerves as he shuffled toward the door, numb fingers locked desperately around the frosted metal knob, cold as death's promise. Beyond the threshold, the corridor yawned, an abyss swallowing light and sound, and he felt it, unseen eyes, famished and patient, devouring shards of his fractured spirit with ravenous hunger. Each echoing footfall hammered a funeral dirge into his unraveling mind. Back within the bleak cell, Jorge's gaze snared by a cracked mirror that gazed back with hollow sorrow, a simulacrum of himself, gaunt and wan, eyes dulled under the oppressive weight of suffering. Yet below the brittle surface, a flickering shadow shifted with hungry intent, a parasite dancing beneath skin and bone, weaving despair into the last vestiges of his identity. Abruptly, the frail overhead light shuddered, sputtered in one last convulsion, and plunged Jorge into an abyss deeper and colder than the winter night's breath outside. The gnawing transformed, no more mere pain but a vertiginous unraveling, the dizzying abyss of self-unmaking. "I'm still here," he murmured, fragile, a heartbeat fading into the void. Then, like an icy breath stalking the nape of his neck, the presence answered. Not with words, but through a silence so immense, it screamed, bleeding despair into every splintered corner of Jorge's fractured mind. The last flicker of warmth fled his broken body as he collapsed, eyes wide and unseeing, sinking slowly into a shadowed void where hunger and hopelessness waltzed an endless tide, merciless and silent. Outside, behind cracked and fogged glass, the city's lights flickered on indifferent, uncaring ghosts in a vast machine. As in that forgotten apartment, an insatiable hunger waited, not merely for flesh or sustenance, but for surrender, for spirit, for the soul's fragile flame to snuff beneath Twilight's cold, watchful breath. A faint, pulsating shadow lingered beneath the glass, a silent sentinel to a hunger that never sleeps, never forgets, and always watches. If the shadows of despair spoke to you, share your darkest hunger stories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales.